Okay, so with that, we bring in former CIA director and President Trump's former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, also a Fox News contributor and the author of the new book, Never Give an Inch, Fighting for the America I Love. Secretary Pompeo, good to have you with us today. So
great to be with you, Martha.
I think a lot of people are confused about this. I mean, how could it be that the top officials in the Trump administration could be in office and 3 different spy crafts fly into our airspace, and those of you in charge are not alerted, and then somehow later this administration learns of it?
It's confounding to me, Martha. I can speak for myself. I certainly never became aware that there was a 3-bus-size floating device coming across our country for 5 days, either CIA director or Secretary of State. I've talked to others who were on my teams. They don't know anything about it either. I'm anxious to hear how this ends, but we've seen Ambassador Bolton, Ambassador O'Brien, 2 Secretaries of Defense, all say they didn't know about it. So I'm completely confounded about what they're speaking about. And frankly, it looks like an effort to deflect from what was a disastrous handful of days.
Is there any possibility that the military would have intentionally kept this from you or from the president?
Martha, it seems unimaginable to me that someone on my team working over at the Pentagon, at CIA and State, we have liaison officers, someone in the political chain of command over at the Department of Defense, it seems unimaginable that somehow this wouldn't have gotten to the political leadership in the White House or State Department or at the CIA. I can't figure out how that happened. If it did, someone needs to explain it to me and to the American public as well.
Yeah, and then they would disclose it to the Biden administration? Now?
Yeah, none of it makes much sense, Martha. The Biden administration's got a lot more information they need to share so they can explain what happened, how it happened, and why it is they failed on their watch, and not try to deflect on someone else and someone else's time and service.
Have you received an invitation to be briefed on this by the Biden White House, and do you expect one if you haven't already?
No one's made that offer. I doubt that that'll happen.
And if it does happen, would you go over and listen to what they have to say?
No, I'd really like to know if somehow we got it wrong, if somehow the military didn't share with us what they needed to. The American people are owed an explanation of this. This accusation is deeply dangerous that somehow the military hid from its political command and its political authority information that was vital to American security. That would be deeply troubling. And we should all try and unpack it. It's not partisan. It's not about President Biden or President Trump. It's about America. We should try and get it right.
Well, the former Defense Secretary Esper has said that he wasn't aware of this. So it could be that it happened under General Mattis potentially, or that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Mark Milley, was aware of it. Have either of them, to your knowledge, commented on any awareness of these 3 flights into our airspace by Chinese surveillance?
No, I haven't heard either of the 2 of them. One of them, of course, is still on duty. General Milley still serving as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Haven't heard Secretary Mattis say anything. But Martha, I was there all 4 years.
Yeah.
I was the CIA director for most of the time that General Mattis was the Secretary of Defense. And I would be shocked if General Mattis knew about it and hadn't shared that with either the CIA director or the Secretary of State.
When we talked about it on Friday, Secretary Pompeo, you said, no, not to the best of my knowledge. And then you said, this is different in kind for sure. Were there other kinds of spy craft that you were aware of that flew into the airspace that were not balloons?
Well, Martha, there are constantly efforts by the Chinese Communist Party to conduct espionage against us here in the United States. Yeah. They've suggested somehow there was something like this. I'll give you the case in point. The Chinese were spying on us from their consulate in Houston, Texas. And I recommended to the president, he did, in fact, shut down that espionage operation right here in the heartland of the United States of America, the biggest spy operation ever against the United States from a diplomatic facility inside the States. So I can't say everything. They were constantly probing, testing. But when they tested us, when they spied from the consulate in Houston, we shut it down. We would have done the same thing had they floated a balloon against over Montana South Carolina, and Kansas.
Indeed. We remember that closing of that facility in Houston very clearly. So if you end up going over there, let us know what you find out. We'd love to hear if you do get that invitation. That was just, we understand, is going to be extended. So former Secretary of State, former head of the CIA, Mike Pompeo, thank you very
Martha.
much.
Have a good day.
Always good to have you with us. Thank you, sir.